Hello everyone, welcome back to the Play On podcast hurling edition. Now we're going to have a look at Dublin against Clare. Dublin losing by 34 points to 2 goals and 23, and they had home advantage. The game was at Parnell Park, and this game was the Tony Kelly show. 20 points for the All-Star of last year and the Hurler of the Year nominee last year. This guy is incredible, but we already know that. Apart from him, good performances from Aidan McCarthy and an all-round good performance from Clare, racking up 34 points, as I've mentioned. What did you make of this game?
Yeah, I suppose first of all, from a Dublin perspective, pretty disappointing. I tipped them to win this one. I thought probably that I suppose like the last couple of weeks that I was nearly hoped that they kind of turned the corner a little bit, and this was kind of the challenge, was to come into a game where they're less favoured than the opposition, and then to kind of prove that they're here and that they're contending this year. But once again, I suppose Dublin kind of come up with a way to kind of lose. Yeah, Owen O'Donnell sent off late on when the game's kind of in the balance, and Dublin, they just kind of they continue kind of to disappoint, and that they're just that little bit kind of shorter than where they probably should be, really. So yeah, a disappointing one. But from a Clare perspective, they're starting to look very sharp. Like we've already talked, huge tally that they put up, and yeah, they after a kind of shaky enough start to the league, things starting to look a little bit better now.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. Clare have definitely improved over the last couple of weeks. Interestingly enough, Aaron Fitzgerald, who's a former Clare footballer, started for Clare, and Colin Galvin, who missed last year's championship with a groin injury, he was back for his first start of this year. He's a massive plus
Yep.
for Clare to have him back.
Yeah, absolutely. He probably didn't have his greatest game the weekend. He had very few kind of touches, but just to kind of get him back involved, and that the more game time he gets, the more involved he will be. So if they can get a few more minutes in him before the Waterford game and championship, yeah, they'll be absolutely delighted with how it's going. Otherwise, teams start to look very settled as well for them. They've the John Collins remains at centre half back. They've Shanahan still in full forward, and you've Tony Kelly back fit and everything. So it seems to be the team's definitely taking shape now for this year. So, and they still have David McInerney to come back in. So there is options there. Like we've already talked about, Aidan McCarthy looks to be turning into an absolute superstar for them as well. So there is certainly positives.
Yeah, there definitely is positives for Clare. But one thing that was worrying was just how much now. Just want to state before I say this that I do think that Owen O'Donnell is one of the best defenders in the country. I think he's the man marking jobs he does on forwards is superb. But the way he just took Shanahan out of the game, looking down the line, that if Clare come up against, a Galway or something, and Shanahan is being picked up by Daithí Burke, the way Shanahan went out of the game, that should be worrying for Clare, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, I think it happens a lot though. O'Donnell kind of can gets the better of a lot of players. Like so, it's yeah, I think Shannon's form's been pretty good. So I still think he's certainly the answer in full forward, and that when the ball is right going into him, I think he can cause absolute carnage in there with Shane O'Donnell kind of feeding off him. So yeah, I think that's kind of settled now. Is that Colin will be the centre half back this year, and I think Shanahan will be in full forward. So I think it's just more interesting to kind of wonder where David McInerney maybe fits back in. Does he go back into midfield now? So I think that's the only kind of question mark over kind of team selection. I think otherwise it's going to be pretty similar to the team we saw at the weekend.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. As for Dublin, do you see them taking many positives out of this game? They were heavily reliant to 13 more points from Donald Burke. 9 of those were frees. But apart from that, a goal and 2 points from Ronan Hayes, a goal and 1 from Keane Boland, points from Eamon Dillon, Mark Shute, 2 from Danny Sutcliffe and 2 from Chris Crummy, and Dara Gray chipped in with a point as well. We've touched previously on how we think Antrim are set going into their game against Dublin. Do you think Dublin are set well enough to fend them off?
I think a lot of where the analysis is based on that league game where Dublin did get the better of them, but I would be a bit concerned from Dublin perspective coming into this kind of like, even if they do get over the line against Antrim, I think they could be heavily beaten by Galway. So I think they're not in a great place at the moment. Like we've talked about, like how reliant they are on Donald Burke right now. I know Ronan Hayes was good with the goal and 2 points, but and he does look dangerous. But yeah, I don't know don't think Dublin know what they're doing really at the moment. Kind of like what way they want to play. You look at Crummy was kind of hovering around the half back line a bit, playing around midfield, and he's being moved all over the place. They can't work out where to play him at the moment. There's about 5 cornerbacks pretty much named the team, with Dunphy, O'Donnell, O'Callaghan, Paddy Smith was there, James Madden was playing midfield. Like, the balance just seems kind of all wrong at the moment. So it's yeah, I
That's
don't
the
know. I
thing.
don't know.
That's the thing that messes with my head about this Dublin team. We were speaking there about how Clare are moving towards a settled team. And in my opinion, this might sound controversial, but I think apart from Tony Kelly and John Conlon, Clare aren't as naturally talented as a Galway or a Limerick. But what you do know about Clare is they will build a team around their best players. Each game that Dublin play, I wouldn't be able to guess what the starting team is going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you look at Conor Burke was back in centre half back after playing midfield the last few weeks, and I know Rush wasn't around this week, but like, Rush has been playing full forward in previous years. And then you're just looking at all this, like Paddy Smith at half back. I've never even seen Paddy Smith play there before for Dublin, so it's really hard to
It
know.
seems like the
Yeah,
wrong time to do it, because we spoke about how Antrim, you can name the Antrim team before it even gets officially named. We know who's going to play for them. We don't know who's going to play for Dublin. And what that can breed in Antrim is a familiarity, a system that they know what they're doing. And often it can be the best system that wins, not the better players. And if Dublin have better personnel on the field than Antrim, but Antrim know better what they're doing and their system is better, then Antrim can overcome Dublin. I think Dublin should be using this time to put out their starting 15 that they're going to have against Antrim, or as close to it as they can have, so that they know what they're doing, so that if they come up against Galway, they might be able to take them on.
yeah, absolutely. And I think, yeah, like, it's a great point, because like, you can name the middle lines of that Antrim team. You know that Gerald Walsh is going to be full back. You know that Paddy Burke's going to be centre half back. Like, and in midfield, you know that's going to be McNaughton and Keelan Malloy. So like, there is a real, like, permanent kind of structure in that team. And if you compare those positions to Dublin, Owen O'Donnell's the only guarantee in full back, and then the rest of it could be anyone. It could be, they could rotate it completely. So next week it could be 3 entirely new players in those positions. So I think it's yeah, I think it's really, really hard for them to build any momentum when they're chopping and changing so much. And Matty, it's a bit disappointing that they haven't just picked a couple of players to play those positions and just to stick with them and back them. Like, you look at James Madden last year was playing cornerback. Now he finds himself in midfield. Like, I don't get how players are supposed to build any momentum when they're not staying in any positions for any period of time, and that they have to kind of evolve constantly.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's hard, and I think it shows a little bit of impatience as well. It's almost as if Willie's thinking, well, that didn't work. Now we're going to try something completely different. You have to stick with an idea for a while. You have to stick with a lineup. The example I will give is John Conlon at centre half back. We didn't like it
Yeah,
at the start. We were talking about how he should be back in the full forward line. To be honest, I
yeah, but
still
he's
think
he's
he
played
would be a
4 full
danger.
games. Yeah,
He's
he's been
doing
given
really
4 full
well.
games to play, and he's played every single minute of the league so far in that position. And look, he looks for a lot more solid now than that first game, which is obviously going to happen when you're trusted so much for this position. Like Lohan, to be fair, he's clearly identified him as somebody that can play this position, and he said that he's going to give him every opportunity to prove it this year now.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. And the trust that he showed, John Cullen has definitely taken confidence from that as well. Because I've no doubt that Lohan went to Conlon and said, "You're my centre half back this year, and I'm going to play you
Yeah,
there until it works." And
yeah,
that breeds confidence in the player as well.
and we already know that it's going to be Conor Cleary and John Conlon, and midfield you're going to have Cotton Malone and Cullum Galvin. So we already know exactly how Clare are going to line up in the middle this year. And then that's when you can incorporate in the forward line. You can have the Aidan McCarthy's, Tony Kelly's and Shanahers. So that's like, it allows them to be more fluid up front, because they know they've got a real structure kind of central defense already in place there now, and they know how they're going to be. And that this is why the Clare could seem to continuously have the edge over the likes of the Dublin, I suppose.
Yeah. And speaking of Clare, how do you see them set now going into the Munster Championship? They're in the draw on the side of Tipperary and Waterford. Do you give them any chance of making the Munster final?
Yeah, I think they're kind of quietly building a bit of momentum now at this stage. Like they last year lost out kind of to Waterford and stuff, but I think they'll be quietly confident in that going into that Waterford game first. I think they'll probably will be considered the underdogs in that based off Waterford season last year, but I think that game's certainly 50-50. And I think like once they're fit and they have all the players that we've talked about, once they're all available for it, I'd 100% say that game's 50-50.
Yeah, definitely. In my opinion, when you have a player as good as Tony Kelly, you've always got a chance.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah. Again, it's another kind of interesting one and the perfect time for Clare to start winning a few games.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Okay, so that is our coverage of the Clare versus Dublin game that took place last weekend. We're going to come back with our coverage of Kilkenny versus Laois